Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack what is, seriously, a masterclass in foresight and crisis management, and it comes from an ancient story. It's all about a leader who has this terrifying vision of the future and the absolutely brilliant strategy that turned a potential catastrophe into a masterclass in how to prepare. So our story kicks off at the very, very top. We're talking about Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, probably the most powerful man on the planet at the time. He's just woken up, and he is deeply, deeply troubled. He's had two dreams, so vivid they've shaken him to his core, and he just has this gut feeling that they mean something huge. Okay, so let's get right into these dreams that had a king so terrified. And look, these weren't just your regular, weird, nonsensical dreams. This was a pair of visions that felt connected, ominous, and just impossible to explain. So in the first dream, Pharaoh's standing by the Nile, and he sees 7 healthy, fat-looking cows. A great sign, right? Prosperity? But then, right after them, come 7 other cows. Sickly, gaunt, just awful looking. And they proceed to eat the healthy cows. But here's the truly bizarre part. After swallowing them whole, the sickly cows look just as thin and miserable as they did before. He wakes up, falls back asleep, and boom, it happens again, but differently. This time, he sees a single stalk of corn with 7 beautiful, full, healthy ears growing on it. But then, 7 thin, withered, scorched-looking ears sprout up and completely swallow the good ones. The pattern is there, it's obvious, but what on earth does it mean? So, this is where a personal problem becomes a national crisis. Pharaoh calls in his A-team. We're talking all the magicians, all the wise men, his entire cabinet of advisors. He lays out the dreams for them, and crickets. Nothing. Nobody has a clue, and you can just feel the anxiety starting to spread through the palace. With all the kingdom's greatest minds totally stumped, the whole situation is starting to look pretty hopeless. But then, a chance memory from a very surprising person offers one last, really improbable shot. Suddenly, Pharaoh's chief butler has a flashback. He remembers his own time in prison years before. He remembers a young Hebrew man, Joseph, who perfectly interpreted his dream and the dream of the chief baker. It's a long shot, but it's all they've got. Soldiers are sent to the dungeon. They grab Joseph, give him a quick shave and a change of clothes, and rush him into the presence of the king. Now, this is what I find so interesting. Joseph's first response. When Pharaoh says he's heard Joseph can interpret dreams, Joseph doesn't puff out his chest. He claims no personal skill at all. He completely deflects, saying the answer won't come from him, but from God. It's this incredible moment of both humility and total confidence. All right, so now we get to the big reveal. This is the moment that a mysterious, terrifying dream gets translated into a stark, unambiguous prophecy that's going to affect the entire nation. After Pharaoh recounts the dreams, Joseph just lays it all out. He says, look, these aren't 2 different dreams, they're one single message, and the meaning is direct. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 full ears of corn, that's 7 years of incredible abundance and plenty. But the 7 sickly cows and the 7 withered ears, that means 7 years of a devastating, terrible famine that will come right after. And this number, 7, it's the key to everything. It defines the timeline for what's coming. 2 distinct periods, back to back. 7 years of unbelievable surplus, followed by 7 years of unbelievable scarcity. And the fate of all of Egypt hangs on how they handle this cycle. Joseph really doesn't sugarcoat it. He says the famine is going to be so grievous, so all-consuming, that the memory of those good years will be completely wiped from existence. It's a chilling risk assessment. He's basically saying, if you don't act now, we're looking at total societal collapse. And this is where the story pivots in the most amazing way. Joseph doesn't just drop this terrifying prophecy and walk away. Nope. He immediately switches gears, from interpreter to strategist, and lays out a full-blown national survival plan. He proposes this incredibly clear, actionable 4-step strategy. Step 1, find just one, smart and capable leader to run the whole project. Step 2, put a national tax in place during the good years. Step 3, build a network of storehouses to lock away all that surplus. And Step 4, create a system to distribute that food when the famine finally hits. Now, the cornerstone of this whole plan is the 5th part tax. We're talking a 20% tax on everything grown in Egypt. It's a bold move, for sure, but absolutely necessary to build a strategic national reserve. This wasn't just a vague idea. It was a detailed economic plan designed to save millions of lives. You can just imagine the scene. Pharaoh and all his officials are just stunned. They're blown away, not just by the interpretation of the dream, but by the sheer wisdom and genius of the plan Joseph just laid out. And right there, in that moment, Pharaoh makes a decision that changes the course of history. Pharaoh turns to his officials and says, "Can we find anyone else like this? A man who has the spirit of God in him?" And seeing that there's no one better for the job, he turns to Joseph. In an instant, in a single moment, the prisoner from the dungeon becomes the prime minister of Egypt, second in command only to Pharaoh himself. And look, this isn't just an empty title. We're talking a complete transfer of power. Pharaoh gives Joseph his own signet ring, the equivalent of a signature. He dresses him in fine linen, puts a gold chain around his neck, and gives him command of the #2 royal chariot. He now has absolute authority to make his plan happen. Joseph, who's now 30 years old, gets right to work. He doesn't waste a second. For the next 7 years, just as he predicted, Egypt has this unbelievable surplus. And Joseph oversees the collection, storing up so much grain that the text says it was like the sand of the sea. They literally stopped trying to count it. And then, just like clockwork, the 7 good years end. The famine begins, and it's every bit as bad as the dream predicted. It grips all the surrounding countries. But in Egypt, there is bread. Because of one man's troubling dream and another's brilliant foresight, the nation isn't just safe, it becomes the sole food supplier for the entire known world. This ancient story is such a powerful case study in listening to warnings and then acting on them decisively. And that leaves us with a really critical question for our own time, doesn't it? The warnings for our modern crises might not come to us in dreams, but they are all around us, in the data, in the scientific research, in the changing patterns we see every day. The real question is, are we wise enough to see them, and are we brave enough to act before it's too late?